Welcome to Orange Wave, your source for everything related to the NDP. I am your host, Will Adams. Today, we are going to talk about some serious accusations being brought up against the Ontario NDP. Anti-Semitism is as big a problem as it is unacceptable. We've seen it platformed way too much in today's media. From Ye's anti-Semitic tirade on InfoWars, to the Conservative Party of Canada making excuses for meeting with a known anti-Semite from Europe, to even having a social media platform gain success and following based on the premise of advertising the ability to freely be anti-Semitic on the platform. All of these topics could warrant episodes of their own. However, today, we're talking about the Ontario New Democratic Party of all people. MPP-elect Sarah Jagmeet is the ONDP candidate for the Hamilton Centre now that Andrea Horwath is no longer in the party. Sarah Jagmeet has done great work in the past. She co-founded the Disability Network of Ontario, she's a founding member of the Hamilton Transit Riders Union, and she is in general a known disability advocate. She seems like a fantastic candidate for the Hamilton Centre, especially when you realize that she worked as an executive there, right? Well, according to the right-wing establishment media, that statement is incorrect. Sarah Jagmeet is currently being accused of spreading anti-Semitic rhetoric by the pro-Ford Toronto Sun because of several now-deleted tweets she has made. The biggest example states the following. I was supposed to do a keynote for Ability Reach next week, but I've learned that the CEO is defending the Israeli occupation. I've happily terminated the contract. You can't defend the occupations and care about disability justice. Israel is disabling and killing entire families. She also stated some things related to this very topic in a rally about disability. This clip comes from Anti-Semitism Canada. Take a listen.
They continue to call us terrorists. And again, when Palestinians got together to take up the street, it was Palestinian organizers that were targeted by the Hamilton police, that were ticketed, there was a mother who was threatened with arrest who didn't speak English. Over and over and over again, the Hamilton police protect Nazism in our city and continue to target Black Muslims, Palestinians, saying that we don't have the right to push to exist. And it's the same liberal-minded people will continue to say that, you know what, it's fine if these things are happening because the issue will go away if you get the right people in positions of power. It's fine that, Israel is illegitimate because Netanyahu's not there, and we know that that's not true because the same people will continue to fund the killing of people here, locally, and globally. We have someone in the crowd right now that was arrested at Trinity Bellwoods. This happens over and over and over again. Locally and abroad, people continue to invest in policing and the killing of disabled people, of Muslim people across the world. And the only answer that we have is to work together to say we want to abolish these systems. Because it's not about getting the right people into positions of power. Because the systems themselves are corrupt. We have people in these systems that are callous. They laugh at us when we say that disabled people...
Now, before I get into my thoughts on what she said, the Toronto Sun is only running this story because a so-called journalist who works for them said some racist shit about Jagmeet Singh's turban in the Gallon Weston committee questioning. I guarantee they're only running this story as a distraction so they don't have to face any accountability for saying stupid things. As for what Sarah herself said, I believe anti-Semitism is abhorrent. It is unacceptable. It's genocidal rhetoric, and I call it out right when I see it. So, I can assure you, when I say that what I just watched, it's not it. This is not anti-Semitism. There's a quote from Jagmeet Singh from a couple years back where he states that it is not Islamophobic to dislike Saudi Arabia's human rights practices, and that being critical is in no way a disrespect to Muslims. I believe the same applies here. The government of Israel has committed atrocities and war crimes within Palestine that have remained unspoken outside of the independent press. You can find footage online of the Israeli military going into a funeral and being brutal with people for no just cause. And they've even gone into houses and brutalized disabled children for no reason. It is in no way anti-Semitic to say that the government of Israel should be held accountable for doing a violent annexation and stealing the sovereignty from another country. It's not that much different than the Russia-Ukraine war. The only difference is that the West has decided that it's okay when Israel does it because they are an allied country. Currently, the federal government of Canada gives over $1 million a year to Israel in war aid. Why are we giving any money to that country? And more importantly, when we give any money to another country, there should be strings attached to our funding, saying that brutal tactics and war crimes could make you barred from receiving any funds in the near future. However, the government of Canada, including the Prime Minister, clearly don't agree with that sentiment, as they've done the exact opposite for decades. Also, it's definitely relevant to mention how reactionary people are acting right now. We need to start asking realistic questions about this kind of uproar. Like, do people up in arms actually know what Sarah Jama said, or are they just letting the right-wing establishment media make their opinions for them? If the Sun actually cared about a federal leader platforming anti-Semitism, they would be talking about this story. This clip comes from CTV News. Take a listen.
Please. Why have you imposed any consequences on members of your caucus who met with Christine Anderson, whose views yourself said were vile?
Well, I think right now what I'm more concerned about is the vile and racist views of the Prime Minister, who after over half of, if I could, over half of his adult life, dressed up in vile, racist costumes so many times that he cannot remember them all.
For a start, Pierre in this clip does not actually answer the question directly. Even worse is he actually decides to throw Justin Trudeau under the bus to try and soften the blow, despite having nothing to do with it. Pierre is a political opportunist, and if Leslyn Lewis met with a Nazi during the CPC leadership race, you know for a fact that Pierre would have thrown her under the bus so that way he could win the leadership race. What makes this even worse is that he's acting like it's acceptable when his MPs do this because of something the Prime Minister did before he was even an MP. He's trying to dodge and avoid any sense of self-accountability. And none of these MPs have faced any consequences from the Conservative Party. This is the real anti-Semitism platformation party story that we should be talking about. Not claiming someone to be anti-Semitic when they're not actually being anti-Semitic. When you do this, you only end up making the fight against anti-Semitism in general more difficult, because if this same outlet published a story about anti-Semitism, I know that I'd be hesitant to believe a single word they say, even when the story could be true, because they cried wolf too many times, and completely forget that when you report a story, you're supposed to have journalistic integrity. Their job is to report facts, not to push propaganda against a political party. That's not their job. They are the press. Their job is to be honest with people. So, in conclusion, this is just another case of the right-wing establishment media wanting to soften the blow because of something they did, so they just published a nothing story. Sarah Jama said nothing anti-Semitic. The NDP is not platforming anti-Semitism. It's just a distraction from the people who are actually platforming, siding, and doing business with anti-Semitic individuals. Thank you for listening to this episode of Orange Wave. I am your host, Will Adams. I hope you have an amazing day, and remember, Jagmeet Singh loves you.